Welcome back, everyone. I'm Q, and this is OldDogComics and Collectibles. Today, we are going to be taking a look at my Zygarde deck. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit subscribe if you find the information useful. To dive right into it, today I want to talk about a new deck that I have put together using some Forbidden Light cards that have I felt synergized very well. I don't know how competitive this is. This isn't a I know other people have talked about some of these combos before, but I don't think I've seen them in the competitive scene yet. So that being said, I just kind of wanted to dive into this. We're looking at a new card that came out in the Forbidden Light set card called Zygarde GX. He is a fighting type Pokemon. He has 200 hit points. His first move is Cell Connector, which takes two colorless energies attached to fighting energy. Oh, it does 50 damage and attaches two fighting energy cards from your discard pile. He has then Land's Wrath, which is two colorless and two fighting for 130, and his Verdict GX move is prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX during your opponent's next turn. You can only use one GX attack per game. So, that's our GX Pokemon. I also have the EX version of him in my deck. For one fighting move, he does Land Pulse, which is 20 attack damage. If there's any Stadium card in play, this attack does 20 more damage. He also has Cell Storm for a fighting and a colorless, heal 30 damage, deal 60. And then he has Land's Wrath, again, a weaker version than previous, but this is two fighting type and a colorless for 100 damage. So, the ideal scenario would be to open up with Zygarde EX as your basic Pokemon and setting up Zygarde GX on your bench while you build him out. Now, to support both of these cards, on my bench, a new card that came out with Ultra Prism is Diancie Ultra Prism. Now, her ability is, as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your fighting Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So now we're boosting his damage by 20. If he does get pulled out, he has Diamond Rain for 3 fighting type or 3 fighting damage. He'll heal 30 damage to each of the bench Pokemon while also dealing 90 damage. So, very good support character. The ability really buffs up, and then if he does get dragged out, we might be able to do some damage and heal. Now, the next card I'm going to use to support this setup is Regirock EX. His ability is this attack of your fighting Pokemon, excluding Regirock, do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, now we're buffing our active Pokemon by 30 damage. Now, if he gets pulled out, he also has Bedrock. During your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 20, and it deals 100 damage. So, that's kind of the setup. Now, to support this, we're also going to run Tapu Lele, which is pretty common. Wonder Tag, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So this is basically a free way to put this down and say, I want to pull any 2 supporter cards out, or I'm sorry, any 1 supporter card that I want out. So this is a great way to find what you're looking for. So I'm running 2 of those in my deck. I'm running 2 Regirocks. I'm running 4 Zygarde EXs, and I'm running 4 Zygarde GXs. Now, you can only have 1 Ultra Prism, so that pretty much makes up the Pokemon in my deck. Now, in my side deck, I've got 2 more Regirocks I'm thinking about playing with. Now, I've got a Sudowoodo here. Got 2 of those. It's a good tech card. Your opponent can't have more than 4 benched Pokemon. If they have more, they have to discard until they're down to 4. So, for certain decks, this is very strong and might be a good side card. Now, this is also a fun Sudowoodo variant. Watch and Learn. It's 90 hit points for 2 damage. You can kind of leave him, I imagine leaving him on your side bench and just kind of putting energy on him. But he has Watch and Learn. If your opponent Pokemon used an attack during his or her last turn, you use it as this attack. So the way I imagine this going on is you have them set up on your bench. Somebody gets one of their primary cards set up, and they knock out my ZX or GX Zygarde. You can then swap in Pseudo Wudo, and especially if they use like their GX attack, then you can use Watch and Learn to repeat the attack against them, hopefully getting you a counter punch or a good knockout in reverse. Now I also played around with the idea of using Buzzwole. I have 4 of them here, but I don't think he's going to end up making it into the final version. This was a good, to me this was previously taking the Zygarde EX spot for 1 damage, 130 hit points, but I think overall Zygarde EX is just the stronger basic Pokemon to try to open with. Now, of course, the difference is he could, he's worth 2 prize cards versus the 1 prize card, but overall, with the heal, the damage, I just think the Zygarde EX is the better choice. So those are some considerations that I had in my deck, and I'm sorry, we're getting a glare on those cards. Maybe that'll help a little bit more. Alright, so that's what we're looking at here in terms of our lineup. Now, to support that, I'm running, let's see here, 8 fighting energy, 4 strong energy. Now, strong energy, this card can only be attached to fighting Pokemon. This card provides fighting energy only while this card is attached to a fighting Pokemon. This attack, the attacks of the fighting Pokemon this card is attached to do 20 more damage. So you can start to see how we're buffing up our guys here. We have 10 damage from Regirock, 20 damage from Deontay, 20 damage from strong energy. So we're up to a total of plus 50 damage so far. Now, in addition to our energy buffing, we have equipment that we're going to use too, and we have that in the form of Fighting Fury Belts. Now there's a choice I've had, because I went back and forth on this between Choice Bands and Fighting Fury Belts, but ultimately I decided to favor the defensive aspect of this card instead of the all-out offense I was going, and that may be counterintuitive to the deck, but Choice Band does 30 damage to a GX or EX type Pokemon. Fighting Fury does plus 10 damage to all Pokemon, so that's one, choose your pick. Now the other benefit is this gives 40 hit points to any Pokemon it's attached to, so this means you can set it on a bench Pokemon to help them survive a little bit longer than they normally would. You can leave it on your active to buff their damage and give them more hit points and hopefully survive the one shot. So that's why I went with the Fighting Fury Belt, because I felt like it's just overall a more versatile card. But still, if you're keeping track, we have 20 damage from Strong Energy, 20 damage from DNC, 10 damage from Regirock, 10 damage from Fighting Fury Belt. That's plus 60 damage if we get everybody buffed up. So Fighting Fury Belts. Now we also have Float Stones, because we do not want our support Pokemon to get pulled in to the active. So these will go on our benched guys to give them 0 retreat costs, so we can instantly pull them back in if we need to. And then I have Max Elixirs, because this will let you look at the top 6 cards and attach basic energy to a fighting type Pokemon. This is basically a great ramp card. If you can find the fight or the energy in the top 6, it'll let you place an additional energy. So the idea would be to put 2 energy cards down at one time. Now we're at a little bit of a disadvantage because we're running 4 strong energy and 4 double colorless, as well as 8 regular energy. So we actually have a kind of low chance of getting that regular energy. So this, if you want, this would be consider something that you could swap out for personal preference, but I like the ramp potential to get extra damage out early. Now to support that, I use Brooklet Hill. Once during this player's turn, that player may search their deck for a basic water or basic fighting Pokemon. So this is basically, as long as it's out every turn, I can look for my Diancie, I can look for my Regirock, I can look for my any of my Zygardes. And on top of that, the Stadium is also boosting your Zygarde EX's land pulse. So good synergy there. And then Field Blowers to remove people's float stones, choice bands, etc. So or other stadium cards that they may use to replace your stadium cards with. So that's what we're going with so far. Now for supporters, the big one that I want to play around with that came out is Bonnie. Bonnie's also a new card, I'm pretty sure, that you can play this card only if there's a stadium card in play. Discard that stadium card. During this turn, your Zygarde GX can use its GX attack even if you have used your GX attack. That means potentially you can have a Zygarde out. He can use his GX attack and then be immune to damage. The next turn you can play Bonnie, take out your stadium card, and do it again for an extra 150 damage and again immunity. So if you put out another stadium card and the next turn play another Bonnie, you can eat that stadium card again. And so the idea here is to use your Bonnies and your Brooklet Hills to, or potentially their stadium, because it could be any stadium card in play. So you can use this to eat Bonnie to eat the other player's stadium cards as well. That's why I'm only playing 2 Brooklet Hills. But the idea is to continually spam your Zygarde's GX attack, making yourself invulnerable. So, other cards, I like Professor Kukui in this deck. He draws 2 cards and gives you an extra plus 20 damage, so that's plus 80 damage potentially on a turn. On your fighting type. So your Land Wrath is doing 210, your Verdict GX is doing 230. On your EX card, that Land Pulse for 1 energy is now doing 100, 120 if there's a Stadium card out there. So you can juice up your Pokemon a lot with those. I also like the draw power. Now, other good cards that I have are Skylas. Search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it. So if you're looking for your Bonnies or you need, we also have Lucamine, put any 2 combination of supporter and stadium, so you can grab your Brooklet Hill and your Bonnie back. So you can use Skylar to find her again. And then I also have Acerola, put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and cards attached to it in your hand. So this is a good way to say, you know, my benched Pokemon have been taking damage, and then you can say, I'm going to pick up that Diancie, get rid of all of the damage counters, and then put it back down fresh. So this is kind of my heal type support in that. Now this isn't fully rounded out because you've got a lot of other options here, and I haven't quite flushed out how I want it to work yet because my whole deck is basically basic Pokemon. I've been playing around with the idea of Ninja Boy. Choose one of your basic Pokemon and play, search your deck for a basic Pokemon and switch it with that Pokemon. Any attached cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. Now, not really good for getting rid of damage, but it is good to say I had no choice but to start with my Regirock out. Well, maybe I can buff him up with some energy and then switch him out for my Zygarde. So that was one of the ideas that I had, and I haven't really finalized. We also have the Cynthia. I don't really know where Cynthia fits in this deck. It's always great card to have because you shuffle your hand in your deck and then draw 6 cards. So if you have no cards left, you can get a free 6 cards, or if you have nothing you need, you can get a free 6 cards. I got a couple more Lucamines. Now Bridget, I don't think is going to fit in this deck. Search your deck for 1 basic Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon except for and put them onto your bench. I mean, there's better cards we can get, I think. More Acerolas. Lily, draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. If it's the first turn, you can draw 8. It's good draw, but not needed. You can also put 2 more Skylas in. Now, Guzma, to me, is a serious contender for this deck. Because Guzma, switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with their active Pokemon. If you do, switch your active Pokemon. So this would be a good way to remove a threat from the field and get Zygarde, once he's buffed up, easily out on the field and maybe take out one of his weaker Pokemon, especially if you use Verdict GX and make him now immune to the next counterattack. So one thought, it's probably good to have a couple Guzmas in there. The other one is Pokemon Fan Club. Now, I think this is probably one of the best options for the deck, because search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, reveal them, and put them in your hand. Well, my whole deck is basic Pokemon here, so just one Pokemon Fan Club, I can set up my DNC and my Regirock, or I can grab a Tapu Lele to grab the Pokemon Fan Club, to then grab my DNC and my Regirock. You know what I mean? So, just a really strong card. I think that has to go on. Another contender I had was How. I love How. Just because the draw potential. I mean, you play him, you draw 3 cards, that's 4 cards. You're basically cycling through for free. So if I can find a way to fit him in, I will do that. And then, of course, other strong considerations, you can put additional Brooklet Hills in there, or additional Field Blowers, Rescue Stretchers. Max Elixirs, Enhanced Hammers for some control, or Choice Bands for extra damage. Now, Nest Ball is really strong for this deck as well. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench. So, again, my whole deck being basic Pokemon, this would be great, especially since it's not the... Now, you're probably thinking, why can't I use Pokemon Fan Club over a Nest Ball? Well, Pokemon Fan Club is a supporter. You can only use 1 supporter per turn. Nest Ball only lets you pull 1 out, but you can play as many of them in a turn as you want and still use a different supporter. Now, Ultra Ball, I think, is actually a pretty weak choice for this build. I know it's popular. I almost always see 4 of them in every deck, but discard 2 cards from your hand to search your deck for a Pokemon. Well, this lets you search your deck for a Pokemon, and you don't have to discard anything. So the only reason Ultra Ball would be a little good is the only synergy I could see really over the Nest Ball or the Pokemon Fan Club in this deck is the discard 2. And you're probably like, how could that be beneficial? Well, if you discard 2 common energies, Zygarde GX's Cell Connector attach 2 basic or 2 fighting energy cards from your discard pile. So essentially, you can discard 2 energy, grab Zygarde, put him into play, and then attach a double colorless attack with Cell Connector, and then pick up those 2 fighting energies. So that's like the only real combo I see for this. Now, the other thing would be if you wanted to throw like any of your supporters away and then use Lucamine to get them back. But I mean, there's other options. Now, the only other defensive card I have is Switch, because you're going to want to protect your support Pokemon as much as you can. So let's see here. But yeah, the idea is to obviously protect your support Pokemon, and by having Switch in the deck, basically it's switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So somebody uses Guzma to pull your Deontay onto the field, you can then take Switch to put it back at a 0 cost. Now, if you also have Floatstone, then you can just pull it back, or if you have Acerola, then you could just pick her up and put another Pokemon out. So I don't know if it's necessary, but I definitely see the potential for putting it in there. So those are some of my thoughts. What do you think of the deck? Obviously, there's a lot of customization on here. You can kind of build it the way you want, but basically you're using your Deontay, your Tapu Lele, and your Regirock, and potentially Sudowoodo if you want to go that route too. Man, that glare is killing me. I'm sorry, guys. It's been there the whole video. I can't seem to get rid of it. But yeah, that's the idea. So again, there's the card you're building around. And then here is the EX version of it. So, and of course, Regirock, if you want to get a closer look there. And then Deontay's Princess Cheer. So that's my thought building around these cards along with Tapu Lele as support. And I'll be probably, once I finalize the ratio for the trainer and items, because as you can see, there's a lot of different things you can do here. I will put a finalized version of the deck up. I'm going to take it out to one of the tournaments, local tournaments here, and see how well it does, and maybe I'll make an extra video and report on that. So leave comments. Do you guys think it's viable? What do you think I've left out? I'd love to get your feedback. I appreciate it, and thanks again, guys.